All righty. Well, it is once again Friday at 10 a.m. So we have our weekly office hours here, and the goal of this, as always, is to talk about teams, especially in this time of so much remote work, but also it's one of those ask me anythings kind of a session. Feel free at any time to put questions in the Q&A chat. I will be monitoring them as I talk and look for questions and try to answer them if I can. So if nothing else, that's what this 30 minutes every week is going to be about. But I do like to try to have some kind of topic to talk about each week. And this week I thought I'd talk. Well, first of all, I'll say that the link you used to get here after this session is over, we'll have all the other recordings. So the previous weeks can all be found by our recording. We've been talking about channel meetings and tabs and all kind of good stuff. I thought today I'd talk a little bit more about file collaboration, real-time co-authoring, all that kind of stuff, because that's the one that, I know people are using Teams a lot these days for meetings, but I think people are also really getting the hang of working on documents, and certainly we've all been doing that for years, but um, the magic of co-authoring, and being in the document at the same time and watching each other work, I think a lot of people are getting some value out of that. So I thought I'd talk about that a little bit. And let me shift to my demo environment. And so, again, we've got, let me give the 30-second, run around of Teams if this is your first time joining us for this weekly thing or first time seeing Teams. But as you see, I've clicked Teams here. I've got my Teams with the square next to it, as well as the channels underneath. Channels are where I have like a conversation about this topic, as well as files about that topic and tabs. I can hide and show these things to help me with, managing the volume. This person actually is in several other teams that they're hiding, so it makes it look nice and neat. I can also adjust my notifications in the settings area. Those notifications show up in the activity feed, lets me know what's going on across all of my teams. The chat button is where, instead of just chatting with team members in a particular team, I can chat with anyone in the organization, just like I would with Skype. Calendars, where I see my calendar and quick and easy ability to join meetings, as well as create meetings with either the Meet Now or the New Meeting button. If enabled for you in your tenant, you could use Teams to receive and make calls, handle your contacts lists and things like that. And then the Files tab shows me not just the files across all of my teams, but even a convenient access to my OneDrive files, all in an attempt to make sure I never have to leave Teams for my entire day. I'm being a little extra there, but it is trying to make a single pane of glass for all things that I would work on. And I do find I'm able to spend a significant part of my day in Teams without having to click around. So, but let me make sure I'm checking the Q&A there. Yeah, here we go. So, but speaking about files, so files are cool. As we just said, in each channel, there's a dedicated files tab. So in a perfect world, you are storing in the files tab the files related to that topic or that channel. So these should be audit planning files. These should be findings files, etc. And behind the scenes, they are all simply stored in a SharePoint library, in which if I go to the root of that, every channel just gets its own folder in that library. So the value is that, I can get at my files, without leaving Teams, with one click. I'm in the document to either view it, to edit it, or to even have a conversation about it. Let me go to one that me and my demo coworkers like to use the federal holidays document. So again, I'm looking at this document, but I want to edit it, and I can edit it in Teams. And I think I may have shown this demo on this weekly session before. Here I am going to open up another user in this tenant who also happens to like the federal holidays document. So she is in it as well. Nice little note about the fact that Ricardo made some changes while I was away. That's nice. But what's interesting is the green bubble here. That's me on the other end, right? That I opened this document, and not only are you seeing the bubble, but you're seeing the red cursor of me typing, or me in the document. So if I kind of do these side by side, over on this side, I'm seeing Deborah in the document. I'm seeing her cursor. So those are Ricardo's changes. I think maybe Deborah, probably hasn't clicked in there yet. So let me see, getting all my browsers confused, but as Deborah, am clicking around, you can see the cursor moving. So that's cool. What I wanted to show, though, that I don't know if I showed in previous demos. Okay, so this is Deborah in the browser, Word in the browser. This is the mod administrator in Teams. I could also open this in the desktop, and I still have the same experience. Again, because the document is staying in SharePoint where the magic happens, I still get Deborah. I can see her there. I still get the real-time actions, right? So there is, now actually you can see there, there is some times where you can see the DD there isn't showing over here. I'm sure it'll catch up at some point. So we're seeing to some degree. There we go. It's kind of happening. That took a little delay there. Same with me typing in my message. All right, and I think that's going to show there, right? So you got the little icon. So everything's working. And again, what I'm really showing here is browser edits, desktop edits, Teams edits. And then, since I figured you wouldn't believe me unless I showed you, I went and made a recording of even the mobile experience. So you can see the little cursor moving around. I mean, that's me on the phone, or a user on the phone. One in the desktop, there's the typing on the phone, and it's occurring in real time in the browser. So I know in the past when I've talked about this with folks, I've always said, and yes, even the phone, it's a little harder to demo phone stuff, but I wanted to kind of prove that even if your team member is on their phone looking and working on the document, they could still participate in the real-time co-authoring that we just saw there. And so that's 4 different places where your team members could be, and that co-authoring is still going to happen. Let me check. Okay. Also, I'll go back here. Just remember too that if I am syncing my files offline, let's say, as I am here, I guess, yeah, same thing. All these files, when open, will still play nicely with the co-authoring, because again, they're in the cloud, and we can kind of see that because of the little cloud symbols, letting us know that they're being synced. So even if I come to it here, I'm fine. And also, even Word kind of knows, or Office in general knows about all of my Teams files. So if I kind of click here, there's the finance team. I mean, essentially, it's kind of showing it in its SharePoint form, but essentially these are my teams, right, that are in Teams, documents, and then these are those channel folders, so I could get to them from here too, or even navigate or browse through them. So Office is fully aware of my OneDrive and SharePoint sites, and by SharePoint sites, that equals my Teams sites. Teams is using SharePoint to store them. So I can get to them from there. I could do the same kind of browsing on my mobile phone with the mobile apps and the new Office app on Android and iOS. I'm trying to think, are there other places? Even here for Deborah, right? If you're at your home page for Office 365, you can see it knows about recent documents, and so I could even come into the Word app to kind of get a feel for the different documents that are out there, and browse for them, or just go straight to OneDrive and look for things. So everybody in general kind of knows about the different documents that we all share. And that co-authoring, again, because all those documents stay in SharePoint, that co-authoring magic stays there as well. Okay. So from a question perspective, someone asked that they're trying to set up an automatic phone number associated with a Teams meeting. Do we have to pay for a phone service to get this set up? I'm an admin on Teams. What's the process to accomplish this? So there, yes, you can have, and I'll show that. You can have, if I go to my Outlook, I'm assuming you're talking about, if I go to my calendar, and just like I have a new Skype meeting button, I have a new Teams meeting button. And by clicking that, I get both the link to join as well as an integrated phone number. Yeah, I think that does, I mean, it requires, the right licensing on your tenant and the right setup. So that's, if you're an end user asking this question, it is something you'd have to go through your tenant admins or whoever kind of manages the tenant and the licensing for your tenant to kind of get that set up. This isn't something as an end user that you can kind of check a box or click a button to do. Once it's enabled, though, then it just kind of magically appears when you hit that join or create a new Teams meeting. In the same respect, if I were to make that here, it will add that. It just doesn't show it the way it does in Outlook. I mean, it will add that after the fact, after I hit schedule. But the same concept is still nothing that I do as an end user, just will kind of magically be there because it's been set up at the tenant level. So hopefully that answers your question there. Okay. And I should say then also, so once that number is there, what that is a way for a user to join a meeting instead of clicking this, which would bring them into a browser or their desktop app, and they're seeing video and hearing and chatting and all that good stuff. They could instead join via phone and essentially just hear but still engage with that meeting through the number. The other tip with this is sometimes people use both. I may join the meeting with this link and kind of mute my device, whether it's my phone or my PC, and then also call in the number on my phone, and I might do that because maybe my microphone on my PC isn't the greatest, or isn't working or something like that, or maybe it's just more convenient to use my phone with my Bluetooth headset or something and do voice from that perspective. So that does work. Teams won't complain at all about you essentially joining through both. So I've seen people use that approach and use the number for that kind of approach. One more tip about that, because I was just in a meeting where this came up. 95% of my meetings, everybody is joined in through the link. But when people are joined in through the phone, the mute, how would they mute or unmute themselves, right? And I believe it's *6 for a person on a phone to unmute themselves. So I think I came across that when we hit that mute all button, muted everybody in the room, including the phone number person. And for a second there, they were unsure how to start talking again. So you have to, if you're purely on the phone, you would hit *6 to unmute yourself. So just another tip there that I just came across just a few days ago. Okay. And the additional question here is whether or not we have to pay for the phone numbers. And in general, I would say yes. I mean, I'm hesitant to kind of speak specifically, to your situation, but in general, I would say yes. But again, talk with your tenant admin, and they would know for sure. All right. Yeah. So that was files and co-authoring. Again, that was mostly about wanting to show that fancy mobile experience. I feel like I just never really get to show that very often, but I was able to prep a little ahead of time to show that recording of the mobile real-time co-authoring playing nicely with desktop, browser, and Teams. So I thought it was fun. Let me see here. I gotta make sure I click on the right thing here. Okay, so I can get out of this. So yeah, so that's the files. The other thing about files is from a collaboration perspective is, again, just kind of recognizing this files button is here. Kind of depends, why would I use this files button versus the files tabs? I mean, the files tabs is kind of when I'm pretty sure I need to find the audit plan, an audit planning file. But when I'm just kind of, I'm not quite sure where it is, maybe I want to see a kind of a comprehensive list, or maybe just a recent list. I don't exactly know what file I'm looking for, but I know I worked on it or it got modified recently. So that's where this would help. Sometimes using this button here can be useful, given that I could sort on location. So maybe I'm looking for something in a particular team or site. But then, of course, to come here to OneDrive and see my OneDrive files without having to leave Teams is useful too. But again, what I do recommend is taking advantage of these file features in Teams and using Teams as the beginning, middle, and end of your file collaboration. I mean, start your documents here, and by that I mean, hitting new and starting the Word document right here, because the moment I kind of get that going, give it a name, it's automatically stored in the file area where the rest of my team can see it. All right, and in a previous session or video, I did talk about how you want to sometimes even start it, or upload it from here. But again, for that one, I did start it with this new button, which is cool. The way I would alert my team to the fact that it's there, is I would typically come into it and hit start conversation, and then say something like, and the reason I do that is because if I close out of this and go back to the conversation area, I've got a nice thumbnail for that and my comment there. And so this is, again, out where everybody in the team can see it. So I don't have to type a full message about I uploaded this doc, go to this folder and find it kind of thing. I can just do what I just did, is just make a comment on it, and that puts it out here into the chat area. So I think that's pretty useful. Trying to think if there's other things about files. I guess one other thing I could say is, especially from a co-authoring perspective, so certainly PDFs are able to be stored and searched on and indexed here, right? So we've got these PDFs here, but not really native editing of this. I mean, there's some workarounds you could do, but essentially you're not really editing this. So you notice the lack of the edit button. But still good to know that you can have PDFs in here and that you can have conversations about them, and that they're indexed so that they can come up and search. My classic example is I searched for roads. It found this tax codes document, and somewhere in this document is the word roads, because SharePoint has basically already read the document for me and knows that the word is in there somewhere. So PDFs can be used as well. They just don't get the advantage of the co-authoring or editing. Now, you may know that Word can open and edit PDFs, but the experience may not be exactly what you're looking for. I mean, it's going to do its best, but you may find the fidelity of that original PDF might get lost in that process. But at least you can do it. And there's a lot of other file types that aren't even represented here that SharePoint and Teams can handle. I think somewhere in here I even have a 3D file, like a virtual reality 3D file, which Teams is more than happy to open and even let me rotate, right within Teams. I wish I could remember where that was, where that file is. But yeah, it can handle quite a few. Well, SharePoint essentially can handle quite a few different file types, and let you see and edit them right within the environment. Can't remember where that file is. That would have been nice to show. Okay. So again, if you have any questions, I don't see any questions, so I think that's about all I had to talk about related to files. So I'll give it a couple minutes, but if there aren't any more questions, I'll probably just give you 5 minutes of your day back. Hopefully that was useful, and once again, this will be available along with all the other weekly sessions on the same link you used, and probably give me sometime later today before I'll be able to upload that. But yeah, hopefully this was helpful. And again, let me check and see more questions. Okay, so I think we've done good today. Check back with me next Friday, 10 a.m. And for those that already know my contact info or how to get with me, if you're one of my customers, feel free to reach out to me as always. But otherwise, I'll give you some time back, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.